You're listening to the DTF podcast, Down to Fitness, where we turn personal trainers into fitness professionals. We're your hosts, Dayton McPherson and Kyle Radune. Welcome back to Down to Fitness podcast, everybody. I'm Dayton McPherson. He is Kyle Radune. On today's episode, a very special guest. We have a CrossFit semi-finalist, a CrossFit box owner, past engineer, and all-around good dude, Kyle Baughman. All right, Kyle, welcome to the podcast. Awesome to have you, man.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm pumped.
Yeah, this is fun. We've been wanting to do this for a couple weeks / couple months, and we finally just had a random day where we were shooting text messages back and forth and worked out, and here we are.
It lined up. I can't wait.
Awesome. Well, I just want to start this off and preface to say that I currently belong to Kyle Baughman's CrossFit box. Kyle Radune used to belong until he moved to Florida. So we've got some experience in your gym, seeing you train, seeing some of your athletes train, seeing how you developed your business as an owner. And that's why we wanted to have you on, is not only are you living fitness and competing at some of the highest levels in CrossFit, but you started a business from the ground up, which is awesome, man. You're doing two of the hardest things right there.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. This Sunday will be my 5th year open. So it'll be 5 years on Sunday.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So let's start off with the awesome ride.
Yeah, I mean, 5 years ago, and Kyle, you're going to take this story, but I wanted to give a little intro here because Dave and I claim to be, the fitness gurus. We know everything about running a business. We don't. It's a joke. No. But ultimately, I walked into your gym. I had been looking for a closer CrossFit gym to my house. I was going about 15, 20 minutes away, and you were 5 minutes down the road. I walked in. I don't think you were open, probably less than a few weeks, maybe a month tops. I think
you were one of the first people that had walked in the door.
So, awesome. See?
Yeah.
So I walked in, and Kyle, we're going to ask you all about your history in sales and gym and all that stuff. But when I walked in there, you did all the things that we talk about in the podcast. You built relationships. You were very welcoming. When I walked into that gym and you welcomed me, within 5 minutes, I was like, this is the place that I got to be. Didn't even care that you only had 3 members.
So that was absolutely true. It was like, you were one of the first people. And day one, when I opened, I only had one person show up, or I had 2 people show up, and one was my current wife. So she was my girlfriend at the time. She showed up, and one random guy showed up, and that was my first day. And I was like, how am I going to pay rent? So, it was, it's grown a lot, and it's just been like making sure the product, has the highest quality. The area that we're in, and there are so many CrossFit gyms, and there's so many other gyms there. So like, why would anybody pick my gym from somebody else's? So it has to be a quality product.
Yeah, I mean, I think right in fitness, we kind of forget about the product itself, and we focus on the things that aren't as important. And I know, and we'll talk about it a little bit here, but when you put your fitness first and your members first, and you have a great community over there, you have a really nice gym. So I stumbled in there and I was like, this dude's awesome. Didn't even care. Like, when we talk about the way to do a tour and the way to sell memberships, and you didn't necessarily check any of those boxes, but after a 15-minute conversation, I opened my wallet and threw it at you.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's so funny because you naturally had that gift of like, you could help people. You were a fitness person from your day one as a business owner. So I just wanted to start off the podcast kind of commending your efforts, because you were a natural, and over this 5 years of experience, you're only going to be that much better, right?
Yeah, it's gotten much easier when people come in for me to sell them, because I actually have like read books and learned. But at first it was like, Kyle comes in and he's like, hey, like, tell me about your gym. And I'm like, what do I tell you about the gym? You look at it. But honestly, like, when you came in, you had all the questions. Like, you were like, what's the programming like? What equipment do you have? What are the class times? And I just basically was straightforward with you, answered all your questions, and you like knew what you wanted and needed, and that was like the easiest sale of my life. Since then, like I now know like how to introduce people to the gym, how to ask the right questions, what their goals are, make them feel comfortable, and then be like, I can help you with this, and this is the product, this is the price, this is what I will do for you. And it's much easier to get people to join. But day one, I mean, I had been an engineer, so I was just numbers, drawings. I worked on a submarine, so I really had no clue. Like, I wasn't really attached to fitness, but I had worked at a CrossFit gym before. When I moved to Connecticut, I had spent like 3 years basically. I kept moving around, and I had spent 6-month stretches at all these different gyms. And I loved CrossFit. I just couldn't find a gym that I liked. And I finally found one at this little tiny box called CrossFit Stonington. Small gym, and they had like 150 members. Everybody's super into CrossFit. And I remember the owner could tell that I was really into CrossFit. And he was like, you got to get your L1. So I got my L1. After I got my L1, I started helping out there. And then he was like, you could open up an affiliate if you wanted to. And I was like, yeah, that's like what I really want to do. And he's like, well, there's only one way to do it. So I went on vacation with my parents, like not even a month later. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to quit my job. And they're like, oh yeah, that's funny. And literally I came back from vacation. I was like, I can't do this shit anymore. Turned in my 2-week notice. And my wife and I, we moved to West Hartford area. We found an open space, and I immediately leased it and spent all my life savings on the gym equipment. And I've just been learning ever since.
Yeah. No, that I mean, that's awesome, right? So you're bouncing around, you find the affiliate that's like best for you. You fall in love with fitness yourself, because obviously you're here, we're talking about the business, but selfishly, I do want to ask you a little bit about being an athlete as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you being able to advance through, to me, I'm just happy if I make the top 500,000 in the open. And you're like, if I don't qualify by a lot, then it wasn't a good time. So,
yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your like dedication to actually doing the CrossFit, hopping around these gyms. Like, you meet some people, you meet some coaches. How did you get really into like the thick of things as an athlete?
Well, before I even I had always wanted to do CrossFit since I was introduced to it in college. And where I went to school in upstate New York, there were no CrossFit gyms. So I was basically waiting until I graduated till I could do it. But at like the Globo gym, I was like trying to learn how to do like butterfly pull-ups and double unders. And I taught myself how to snatch and clean and jerk, like with the metal plates that you can't drop. So I was like, I'm sure like the owners of those gyms like were sketched out by me, but I was proficient with all of the movements before I even went to a CrossFit gym. And then when I walked in the door for my first CrossFit experience, they were like, hey, do you want to do the on-ramp? And I was like, no, I can do everything. And it was like a 1-rep max back squat day. And I just back squatted like 500 pounds. Cause like all I did in college was like squat, deadlift, like clean, snatch. And like I just was like basically a power lifter, but I was extremely deconditioned and all my gymnastics sucked. So I had known that like I wanted to be Rich Froning. Like Rich Froning was like a god to me. And then so I started going to these CrossFit gyms. I throw up during my first like workout because we had to run. And I was like, you're expecting me to run? I can't do that. So it took me forever to get like the conditioning in and kind of figure out pacing, because pacing's a game in its own. And I loved it right away, partially because like when you're young and in your 20s, you're like, oh, I want to look a certain way. And well, I wanted to look like the guys on TV that I was watching, like Rich Froning and Josh Bridges. but I mean, I'm a tall guy. I'm like 6'2". So those guys were much smaller than me. It made the other stuff look very easy. And like the gymnastics things for me were a struggle to always learn. So it took me a really long time to kind of figure out the right way to train for myself, and kind of the right like program style to kind of follow, because there's so many things out there. And I think a lot of CrossFit gyms do a really poor job programming. A lot of people follow these crazy programs that have a ton of high volume. And if you like come into our classes, I really limit the volume, but the people are still like extremely fit. So I think there's a lot of overuse injuries that can be avoided if you're actually smart about how you approach programming for your group of people and making sure you know your group well.
You know, I'm going to jump in on that because as soon as you mentioned some of the programming stuff, this is something I noticed right away. And you, as a competitive games athlete, you are trying to go to the games. Your programming looks very different than maybe what someone at your box, Joan walks in off the street. She wants to get fit. Mm-hmm. What does programming like, for your gym compared to for you, or like, how does that differ?
Yeah. So, I mean, I follow a really similar template to what my gym does. Like, I break up the days basically into like a barbell day, a gymnastics day, another barbell day, conditioning day, another barbell day, and then either gymnastics or conditioning. And my volume is just a lot more because I have the ability to train multiple times a day and take a break and eat perfectly and dial in my sleep and everything else. But I know Cindy, she has 3 kids and she was up all night with her youngest, and she had like a scoop of peanut butter before she ran to the gym to just like get a quick workout in, because like the rest of the day is going to be wild for her. I know things aren't going to be perfect for her, so I need to like make sure that she's going to still get some benefit from coming. But basically the difference is like I have more loading, I have more volume, but the intent behind the programming is really the same. There's a base level of fitness that basically everyone gets when they come to my gym. We make sure that you get some type of aerobic work like every day. So, and every, like, you'll see, if you follow the programming long enough, you'll see like every Monday we're on a squat progression. Every Tuesday we're on an upper body pulling or pressing progression. And usually Wednesday I'm having us do a progression of some type of pull from the floor. And we're on like a 4-week cycle. My programming differs because now that I've developed myself enough, I have a full-time coach. So he's dialing in things for me. So I'm doing a lot more upper body pressing than like I would want my group to do, because that's a weakness for me personally. But he's a lot smarter than me, and it's been nice because I've been able to learn a lot from him. And it's definitely influenced my programming quite a bit.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, the CrossFit methodology, I don't know if you like kind of buy into that whole like program for the best, scale for the rest. Is that what the saying is?
Yeah. And I mean, you can do that to an extent, but if you're at my gym, we have 3 semi-finalists. And if I program a workout for me, Kate, and Skylar, the rest of the gym it would be almost impossible to scale it correctly for every single person. Every single person would have to scale it. And then you get into a bunch of the ego lifting, like the stupid injuries that happen from people trying to do too much. And like coaching gets really hard because you're just trying to like manage everybody's emotions and feelings and all that crap. And when you walk into the gym, you're there to have fun. And like that's the main point. Like, these people that are a part of my community, they're there to like relieve stress. This is like the best time of their day to hang out with their friends and to like get healthy. And I don't want to like discourage them ever. And I want them to like have a good time. So they come in and they do their lifts, they do their conditioning. They're all laying on the floor at the end. Awesome. I give them high fives. We bring it in for a huddle and call it a day.
Yeah, the reason I mentioned that is because I go back and forth, and I love CrossFit. We wouldn't be having this conversation if I didn't like CrossFit. Like, I'm sure I'm biased, but
yeah,
while I do love CrossFit, I'm pretty critical of CrossFit. And anyone that follows like my personal page, I can challenge some of those things, that are happening. And I mentioned the program for the best, scale for the rest, because I've seen it in a big box gym, and it really doesn't work when the scales are that different, because you can't scale appropriately. And what ends up happening is a lot of these gyms that they have the competitive programming for their Gen Pop people, and you see this a lot of turnover. People come and go, and you don't see that with your gym. Your gym has continued to grow and grow and grow over these 5 years. So whenever I go to a CrossFit gym, the number one complaint I hear from the members is always they talk about the workout. It's the programming or the community. Those are the two things that people always complain about. And if you can nail the programming, we'll ask you about your community in a minute, but I know your community is awesome. And I think those are maybe two of the most important factors. Is that true? Or do you think there's something else that
I think that's absolutely true. But I have a good example of like really bad programming for a box. So my wife and I, we stopped at a box in New Hampshire, and we dropped in, and I'm a semi-final athlete. Like, I can do any CrossFit workout. I'm not intimidated by any box. I come in, the coach is super nice to me. She's really nice to Shayna. We come in, the workout of the day was 30 strict ring muscle ups for time. And I'm looking in the class. I'm at a noon class. It's me, a 67-year-old woman, very frail. Not like, there's no chance she can do a muscle up. And there's a woman in her 50s that's she's not very fit. And the workout's 30 strict ring muscle ups for time. And I'm like, what are these people going to do? So I can do the 30 strict ring muscle ups, but I'm looking at this like 67-year-old woman, and they have her doing box assisted jumping bar muscle ups, and they're like encouraging her to do it. And I was thinking to myself, like, what happens when this woman flips over the bar and like falls down, or if she gets like unbalanced? She didn't even have the ability to press herself up. So that was like another bad scale. They modified it to ring rows and push-ups, but doing 30 ring rows and push-ups wasn't much of a workout for Shayna, who needed something more, but she couldn't do the 30 strict ring muscle ups or 30 muscle ups in that case. So it was just like a really poorly programmed workout for their population. And that time could have been so much better spent. That 1 hour could have been much better spent for everyone in there. And I know the lady that was 67 years old, she was just discouraged by the end because she failed like 10 jumping assisted bar muscle ups. And the other woman, she didn't even try it because she was intimidated. She was scared. So it was like nothing good came from that workout. So you really need to know your group. And I think it's silly when people talk about outsourcing programming. If you don't know how to program and you own a gym, then that's something you need to educate yourself in, because you're responsible for the people that walk in the door. And there's been plenty of times where I've gotten it wrong and I've written a poor workout. But there's plenty of times where like you nail it and like everybody's in there, they're having a blast, like music's bumping, and you finish and you look around, every single person's smiling, and you have and that's where the community really comes together, when they have a good time and they actually get something from the service you're providing them.
Yep, for sure. All right, so back to kind of the business side of things. So you open a CrossFit gym. I want to talk a little bit about a CrossFit affiliate, because personally, I actually, for the last year, have a couple of buddies. We've been looking at buildings, thinking about opening up a CrossFit gym myself. I've been like ready to pull the trigger, but not like 100% sold.
Mm-hmm.
So when this episode idea came up, I was like, well, I got to ask a couple of those little behind the scenes questions. So, getting started, I think some of the logistics in starting up your own CrossFit gym, or even if a listener's not into CrossFit, they're opening up their own private personal training studio. The same things kind of apply. And you were new to like the entrepreneurial, like business startup thing. How did you like find your building and like negotiate leases and come up with some of that nitty gritty? Like, I want nothing to do with that crap.
Yeah. So now I know a lot more, and through networking through my gym, it's really opened my eyes to how wrong I did it when I first opened up. So I'm glad to share some light on this. But if you can find investors, you are going to get a much lower rate if you have to borrow money for an equipment loan. So I did an equipment loan through Rig Equipment. That's what Rogue had as somebody you could use. And I got a 20% interest loan, which was very expensive. And you can see, I'll tell you a little more. So after I put a lot of money down, and I had no income, and I found the space I wanted. It was previously a CrossFit gym. I walked in, there was already the wall ball line on the wall. Everything was just red though, so it looked hideous. So all I had to do was paint the place and put the flooring in, and then get the equipment. So the landlord came to me with the lease, and I called up one of my parents' lawyer friends from home. They looked it over and they were like, "This is just regular lease terms. Like, everything looks fine. They're not trying to screw you over or anything." But what I didn't know is that I could have negotiated to have free months of rent. So when you move into a place, you need to say, "Hey, listen, I'm starting my business. I'm going to need at least a month to renovate the facility how I need it." So you get 1 month free there. Then you want, just like, if you can, push for 3 months. Like, most landlords, if they're doing okay, they would gladly give you 3 months as long as you sign up for a 3-year lease or more. So I signed up for a 3-year lease. I didn't get any months free. So I opened the door. Month 1, I spent just getting everything ready. It took me the entire month. So I spent all that money on my lease. I spent all that money on the equipment. And then month 2 comes, I open the doors, and I have that one customer show up. And I have the lease to pay. I have the equipment loan to pay, the electricity. So that's when the overhead was really high, and I didn't have the revenue to pay for anything. And that's where, I got so lucky because I got 2 personal training clients that I sold, and they showed up every single day. And that's the only way I was able to pay the bills. But I did not make a cent. I did not make any money for like 8 months. And I remember just laying in my bed at night crying to my wife, like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, because like it was so hard. But I just kept showing up every day, and I kept giving it my all. I coached 5 classes a day, did 2 personal training clients every day.
I can attest to it. He was there at 5 a.m. Sometimes when in the beginning, I was the only one at the 5 a.m. And man, did I feel bad making you get out of bed for me.
No, and that was just how I started. So like, coming back, if I had to do it again, one, I would make sure that, like, if you and your partners are opening up something, I would make sure that you know people in the area already, because I opened up a business in an area where I didn't know a single person. And that was tough, because if you're somebody from out of town trying to open up something new, the people there, they don't know you anything. So you like really have to like sucker them into like even showing up. The hardest thing to do is get people to show up the first day. So if I was opening a CrossFit gym, I would probably open it in a town where people knew me. The second thing is I would negotiate the lease, and I would find an investor to help me pay for my gym equipment, because the interest from that was like almost $1,000 a month. So that hurt. And if I had a good investor, they would say, hey, you don't have to pay me for an entire year. And then so then the overhead for the first year is way low, and you can build up your customer base. And if you can build up your customer base, then I mean, the thing about CrossFit that's nice is it's a subscription business. Like, everybody looks at it like it's I mean, that's what like most of these gyms are. They're like, every gym is a subscription business, but CrossFit has like one of the highest average revenue per member gym prices in like that I know of. I mean, unless all of your clients are personal training clients.
I mean, in Florida, membership here is $250 a month. I don't know what Connecticut is, but
I mean, we're like $200 if you're doing unlimited. Yeah. But like, that's pretty good for like one person. If you're doing like, I mean, personal training 1 hour every single day, of course that's going to be a huge bill. But if you're just going to a Globo gym, like, you can pay $40 to go to a Globo gym. Yeah. So if you can you don't have to get that many people to pay rent. If you get it enough to pay yourself, then man, that's awesome. And then the next part is like, you just have to keep those people happy. And like, if you provide a good service, guess what? Like, you keep growing because it's word of mouth. That's like I mean, CrossFit will grow by word of mouth, because otherwise, like, people don't tend to show up to a CrossFit gym. They're just intimidated by it. So
you know, the burning question, I think too, is and this actually Coach Jason Ackerman just posted the other day about the $3,000 affiliate fee. And I thought to myself, I was like, you know, I got to ask Kyle about this, because he made a post and he said, you know, do affiliate owners feel that they get what the $3,000 is worth? And for for most like a franchise model where they take percentage of your revenue every month, they charge you fees every year, they're taking a lot of money from you. In CrossFit, it's an affiliate model, and at $3,000 a year, it's a super low barrier. But then you hear a lot of times affiliate owners complain that they don't do enough. And I would argue in our business, $3,000 worth of like effort to build your business is like nothing. So anything CrossFit does for you should be worth the $3,000, in my opinion. And I'm interested in what that experience was like for you. Did they help you get going? Did they give you marketing materials? Do they lend you support like that? Or is it just like, here's our name, thanks?
So at first, when I opened 5 years ago, it was just, you can use CrossFit in your name. And honestly, 5 years ago, when I opened in 2018, that's when CrossFit was at its peak. Since then, like, if you look at the Google searches, CrossFit is down over 50% per search. So back in 2018, when I started, it was definitely worth the $3,000, because we were getting like hits from people searching CrossFit. CrossFit gets searched a lot less now. And I mean, if you were to search CrossFit in my area, my gym's going to come up first, because we have the most reviews and we're all 5 stars. So it's like, I know they're not going to go to the one down the road from me because they don't have 5 stars and they have way less views if they use Google anyway. And so back then I thought it was worth it just for that. They did not help you open the gym. They did not give you like business plan materials. They did not give you marketing. But I think so many people complained that they actually started to really put an effort into it. I have looked at some of the stuff. I don't think it's that great yet, but I know Austin Maliola is in charge of that. And
the programming?
No, he's not in charge of the programming anymore. He's in charge of the like affiliate toolkit is what it's called.
Oh,
so
okay.
they give you like marketing material, but it's really like, it'll be like a video, like one video. And then they'll give you like examples of like things you could do. But other than that, they don't help out that
no
much.
business strategy, no nothing. They're just like, oh, hey, fitness person, here's our name, go run a gym.
Exactly. So like, as long as you have your L1, you can open a gym, which is not that good because that's when you get a bunch of people that they don't know what they're doing. They start, this is how CrossFit gets a bad name.
Well,
But,
this is kind of where I was going with that too. Is right. You crank out all these people with the L1, you get a weekend seminar basically, and they open these fitness facilities where people are going very quickly with. Now, a good coach, obviously, it's the appropriate weight, right?
Yeah.
But like, who is really lifting appropriate weight? So, obviously when you have a good coach and you're on top of that, but what I see a lot is CrossFit gets this bad rap, but CrossFit isn't bad. It's some of the owners of these gyms.
It's the bad gyms. So I've been to a lot of bad gyms before, and I wanted to make sure my gym was not like that at all. I've been to a gym where the coach literally had the warm up on the board, the workout on the board. And he, at the very beginning of class, he'd be like, okay, this is the workout today. This is the warm up. I'm going to give you 20 minutes. When you're done with the warm up, we're going to meet at the board. I'll tell you the workout again, and then I'll start the clock. And he would go over and squat while the rest of the class would do their warm up.
And not even doing the workout of his own gym.
Yeah, I know. So I was like, this is bad. So I wanted to make sure my gym was nothing like that. And it's really like you see the bad gyms, they go out of business. They can't survive. But the affiliates that do a good job, and the people like myself that are really into like continuing their education and providing a better quality product and being a better coach and knowing how to like support the people in their gym, those gyms, they stay open. And like, if you look at a 10-year affiliate, if you walked into a 10-year affiliate, then every single person, I mean, like, you're going to get supported well at a 10-year affiliate. You can't be open for 10 years and provide a shit quality product.
Absolutely.
And Kyle does not do what he just said at his gym. He goes through everything. Like, he makes sure that he's explaining exactly what to do. He's great with regressions and progressions too. And I'm speaking firsthand. Like, when was I there? Yesterday, Kyle? Yeah, yesterday. Yeah. I didn't do the workout with the group, but I did it with another group. And Kyle's a really good programmer. The most fit that I ever was in my life was during COVID, when we were doing those 2.5 hour long sessions. We were crushing it, dude. It was great. And now that life's gotten in the way just a little bit more, not as fit, but I can speak firsthand that Kyle does have that personality of someone that lives what he's doing. Like, it's part of his job, but it's also him teaching it to other people and him doing it himself. And, I'm in fitness, but there are so many times that I have questions for Kyle. Like, I don't understand how to do this. How can I get better at this? And, we talk about learning from the best, and Kyle's one of the best with being a semifinals athlete. And that's what I want to know about. Like, what are those experiences like? It's cool watching you on TV. I'm like, hey, I know that guy. Hey, I know that girl. I know that guy too. So I get inspired by you guys, and I really enjoy working out with Kyle. Like, we've done partner WODs together because I will not work out harder than when I do it with him. I know he's not going to take it easy on me, and I die.
Well, Dayton, I have a really good memory of coaching you for one of the first times I made you do Fran. And yeah, I knew almost right away that Dayton is somebody that, like, if you start to really push him and tell him to go, he will continue to push himself and go. Like, he will go, he will just do whatever you tell him. So he's dying doing Fran, and I'm over there like, back up on the pull-up bar, do another one. And he's like just killing himself. And at the end, he falls on the ground, and he's like, Kyle, my heart rate monitor said it got up to 205 or something. And I was like, are you alive? Like, this is crazy. Yeah. Nice job.
Yeah. But I was the only person in the gym too, by the way, doing Fran by myself. That was before I had butterfly pull-ups. Yeah, like I had no idea really what I was doing. And we always joke I should try to do it again because I have my score still loaded up somewhere. I think that would be really fun. But you just got to scream and yell at me again, or else I won't be my time.
Yeah.
Man, Fran, I'm scarred for life. Kyle, do you know the last time I did Fran was at your gym?
Oh, really? Was it?
Yes. It was the only time in my life I fell off a pull-up bar, and I have not done Fran since.
Oh, I actually do remember that.
So
anytime anyone has fallen off the pull-up bar, like it has scarred me.
Yeah. So I did Fran. One of my first times at CrossFit, I tried Fran, and I was basically doing strict pull-ups. I didn't know how to kip. I was like a 9:30 Fran, and like, you know, I actually was kind of happy I still did it in under 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second time was at your gym. I had been CrossFitting about year 3, and I'll never forget it. I looked up at the clock, and it was like I cut my time like in half. I was like going into the round of 9 with like 6 minutes, and I'll never forget. I had like 3 more pull-ups, and I was like, "Do not let go of this bar. Do not come down from this bar. You're gonna get all 3." And on the last one, my hands just went, and I just landed right on my back, and I have not tried Fran since.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's not fun.
That's probably one of my least favorite like benchmark workouts. You had mentioned before about the hero workouts and which one was my favorite. And honestly, like I really don't like the hero workouts in general because I think they're too much for a regular CrossFit class or workout. And so I think there's a great reason to do them, and there's a great reason to suffer for them. But you can't program them weekly or anything like that. But my favorite one that is actually like you can control the volume really well is Nate. That's 2 muscle ups, 4 handstand push-ups, and 6 or 8 kettlebell swings.
Yeah.
And that workout it's super fun. But like there are plenty of CrossFit workouts that are just way too much. So
well, and now they've taken the OG workouts and enhanced them to make them harder because 20 years later, we're actually all so much fitter than CrossFitters in 2005.
I know it's wild. It's wild now.
All right. So the other thing I wanted to really quickly, you've really grown a team of trainers or coaches in your facility, in your box. Our listeners are mostly coaches, trainers. So as you've grown and you've been able to hire people, right? You were telling us you were coaching the 5, 6 a.m., the 7 a.m., the 9 a.m. And now you actually get to kind of step back a little bit. You've built up a team around you. The gym is still successful. The gym is still growing, but you've gotten to take a couple steps back. I think for most business owners, entrepreneurs, that's the dream. And after a few years, we still aren't usually there. You've hit year 5.
I'm home on a Friday night. Who would have thought?
Right. So that's awesome.
Yeah. So I just got really lucky because my gym has definitely brought in really amazing people just because I have inspired them. The people at the gym have been inspired, and they want to be a part of this really fit community. And so I got lucky. I have had coaches just join my gym because they love it. And so they wanted to be a part of the community. And I have better coaches than me at my gym. I have a guy he's been coaching for like 9 years. And when I go to one of his classes, I'm like, I don't know how he does it, but he can engage the people with every person in there so well. And like, he knows what motivates each one of them. And he can remember every weight that they've ever lifted, every PR they've had, what weight they should use ahead of time. Like, he knows it for his group. And that was big. So like, I've actually learned from my coaches. So experience really matters. But when I have a new coach come in, somebody that wants to coach for me, they need to be shadowed, or they need to shadow me first. And I have a certain way that I like things done because I've seen a lot of really tragic CrossFit classes. So they have to follow my format, and they shadow me for a while. They make sure that they're doing things correctly. And then finally, like, I'll let them run a class on their own, but I'm there and I watch. And that happens for a few weeks. So it's like a couple month long process.
No, that's great.
Yeah, but I've had people try to coach at the gym before. I had a girl that tried to coach and it just wasn't going to work. I could tell right away, like all of the coaches at the gym are like very skilled and they are really well respected by every other member. If you don't have the respect of the people that walk in the door, like if I went into a class and I didn't respect the coach, that's not a good start, right? So you, like any person in there, like if I do a class, I need to make sure that the coach can cue me. Like I do things wrong still, and it would be really rare to go into a gym and actually have a coach try to coach me. But that's what I want. So I want my coaches to be able to do that.
I get that.
Yeah, little quick thing there. As I've noticed that the better athlete you are, CrossFit, a lot of the average coaches will leave you alone and they only want to talk to like the newbie. I worked at a CrossFit gym for a couple of years after COVID. And one of the things that frustrated me to no end was all of my peers would stop coaching me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm the one that wants to be coached more than that person. And you haven't looked at me because you're
like, oh, he's doing good. Don't just let him go.
Right. No, like I have a lot of room to improve. Like you better be coaching me. So wait, who's the really great coach? You want to shout him out?
Oh, Gary Boyven.
Yeah, Gary.
I actually wanted you to shout him out because he's my dad. I didn't mention this. My dad goes to your gym and that's his favorite coach because he's the early AM guy. So I've heard great things about Gary. So shout out to Gary. We love good coaches.
Shout out to Gary. He crushes it, man. He really does.
Hell yeah. So getting a little long here. I want to sign off with one kind of fun question, change it up a little bit. You have all this really cool experience. What is your favorite moment as a competitive CrossFit athlete?
All right. So I have a really funny one. This past year at semifinals, I had one event left and my coach, Matt, was like, I knew I wasn't going to qualify and I had a strategy in my head. Like, okay, like it's a pretty short workout. Like this is what I'm going to do. And he's like, hey man, you're good for this workout. Like you could do that workout and get like, I don't know, top 15, or you could try to like win it and just go for it. And I was like, what do I have to lose? He's like, exactly. So go for it. So I went out there and I'm absolutely destroying this workout. It was like, echo bike calories, toes to bar, and sandbag carry. I'm winning for the first 2 rounds. Then the third round comes. This is the final round. And I get to the toes to bar and I'm like in survival mode. Like I'm seeing black closing in. And I go from like first in my heat, first in every heat to like almost dead last. And I survive and I barely make it across the finish line. And I died, but like I had a lot of good screen time. So there's like a picture of me on the Jumbotron. Really, like they're like, can he hold on? And the answer's like, no, he can't. And then I'm like going into the back, and I used to do like Hard Work Pays Off, the programming by Matt Frazier. So I got to meet him a couple times, and I go into the back and I just hop in the ice bath, and I'm just like devastated. And Frazier comes up to me, and he's like, hey, Kyle. And I was like, wow, this dude remembered me. I was like, this is amazing. Matt Frazier said my name. And he's like, you almost had that one, buddy. Next time. I was just like,
like, thanks, man.
Yeah. But I was like,
good.
But the highlight was, Matt Frazier talked to me.
That's good.
So
yeah,
that makes it all worth it, right?
Yeah, we made it worth it. Yeah.
Cool.
No, but I love that story. That's fun.
Yeah.
Well, Kyle, I know you got to run. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was awesome to talk to you as always. If anybody is ever in Connecticut, check out Golden Goose CrossFit. Check them out on Instagram too. Do a drop-in class. Kyle would love to have you. One of the best coaches that I've ever been around, and Kyle and I have been in lots of gyms, so we know one when we see one. Kyle, good luck in the upcoming season next year, and good luck in continuing the success with your business and your community, man.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. It's a blast.
Absolutely.
Good to see you, Kyle. Have a good one.
Bye, everybody.